We are ready. Okay. Welcome to Distress Deals Decoded, where real problems meet real solutions, brought to you by our friends here at Asset Resolution Advisors. Today's episode is a real case study and it perfectly illustrates the difference between knowledge and execution, right? Because a lot of people think that they have this side of the world of uh, decoded properties or short sales down pat. But when it comes down to execution, we see the complete opposite. Patrick, take it away, my friend.
Yep. So, Juan, you introduced us to a heavy hitter, big investor out there in the world, huge team. You know, your classic top tier real estate investor. And I mean this truly. I mean, no tongue in cheek here. Savvy person starting to get into the short sale space, or accordingly has been in the short sale space. So we were getting into some conversation, and as this episode unfolds, you're going to see kind of where this all led to. But initially, they're like, we know exactly what we're doing. My team is very capable. I've got great processors. They're Johnny on the spot. They jump on things instantaneously. If something needs to be done, it gets done right now. And they've been doing these short sales. And yes, we've been closing deals. We just want them to go faster. And so that was okay. Well, let's take a peek at that. Faster is defined in a few different ways in the short sales space, and we'll talk about that as well. And they were very confident in their process. So as we were trying to do a little bit of digging into their systems and what have you, we ended up having several conversations with them. And lo and behold, we're coming together now with a full-blown solution that's going to meet everybody's needs. But these guys were not beginners. That's exactly why this story really matters, because sometimes in life, we don't know what we don't know. And that's when it's challenging, because if you don't know what you don't know, then you don't know what you need to look for. So they wanted us to help us speed up their short sales. The team felt, and we'll toss this back over to Steve, that the problems they were encountering were totally on the lender side of the equation, that they weren't getting enough feedback, they weren't getting callbacks or emails. They felt the lender needed more pressure, right? We'll talk about that. And they believed that their internal processes didn't need any tweaking whatsoever. So we then had to have a bit of a reality check. So, Mr. Schiller, I'm going to hand the baton to you, sir, to cover this piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, we've actually had a lot of operators exactly like this, right? They're very knowledgeable. They do understand what's going on, right? They understand the short sale process as a whole, and they all, pretty recently have all said, "How do we make this faster? How do we make this better?" There are, there's the reality check here, right? There are a lot of things that are coming in to play as to why it's not working. One of the things, one of the key pieces that we're finding is it's incomplete files, and where that becomes an issue for most is operators who know what they're doing say, I've got this, I've got this, I've got this. Yes, you do have all the pieces, but you missed one document, and that one document was a key component to everything, and so therefore the file doesn't move forward. And so are you wasting time? Yeah, you're wasting time, but the mortgage servicer cannot move forward because you either they didn't have the document or didn't know they needed the document. There are a lot of reasons why it wasn't there, but it stopped everything. And in short sales, and the way short sales work and move is you have to know what documents you absolutely need for it to move from step one to step two. And there are some you don't need right away, but you do need afterwards, right? And knowing what those are the keys to elongating a short sale or getting it moved through quicker. And that was one of the key things we found out was, okay, they didn't have all the docs. Well, by the time that they learned from the servicer, oh, you need this document, they went and got it, but all the other documents had since expired because it had taken so long.
Mm.
And so the mindset is, oh, I need to call them every day, every day, every day. Well, that doesn't accomplish anything at that moment because the servicers have to go through the process. You have to understand their process. And in order to understand their process, you have to know what needs to go into it and how everything works. Because, for instance, if you submit a financials day one, and then 45 or 50 or 60 days down the road, all of a sudden say, oh, they need this doc. Okay, great. I submitted it. Yeah, but now your financials have all expired. And so, it's pretty much like you're running a race and the finish line keeps moving further and further away. And that's really what's happening, right? And short sale documents are time sensitive. Um, Understanding what needs to be sent, when it needs to be sent, is just as important as the accuracy of those documents. So there's a coordination within working a short sale that's above and beyond just submitting documents and just submitting the offer.
Amen to that. In fact, just to piggyback on that briefly, I was looking at a file today, and the proof of funds for the buyer in the contract is already 2.5 months old. So
Oh,
they've been
wow.
working with them for a while, which is they're not expired, but they will be in 2 weeks. so,
Right.
so that's one of those cases. If you don't catch that, then all of a sudden, after they've gone through the whole, okay, we've got everything, let's push it through the gauntlet here, and 3 weeks later, hey, your proof of funds are expired, so the file hasn't gone anywhere yet. And that's where the snowball happens.
Yeah, and that's like, there's a lot of misconceptions in the short. So like you mentioned, Steve, where people say, well, just submit the documents and then everything kind of works out, at the end, this is how you process it. And I think that what happens with investors and or negotiators in a lot of cases is that they treat every single file exactly the same, not understanding that we're working with different servicers, and
Mhm.
different services like a different company, and every company has its own guidelines, right? You don't go to McDonald's and says, well, Burger King says you have it your way, so I want it my way here at McDonald's. They're gonna look at you and be like, well, we make this Big Mac this way and we're not changing that. Like this is our policy. And I think that that's probably one of the misconceptions is that our short sale is a short sale is a short sale, and that's not it, right? Another one is a big one is if they just had the servicers direct contact, right? The right people in the top of the food chain, well, then I can probably get deals done quicker. And that cannot be further from the truth, right? Contacts definitely do not fix this, speed issue or process issue. It actually, will break it if you are not processing these deals the right way. If you're trying to escalate a opportunity or a short sale, that doesn't require escalation, because the reason that you're trying to escalate it, or the reason the deal's not moving forward, is because you don't have the right documentation for that specific servicer. You're trying to meal piece or put together a deal the same way you work the last one, and these people are completely they work completely different, right? So you're wasting your time and you're wasting effort in trying to escalate things, and you're bothering the heck out of the context that you have, right? And so I completely understand it from a standpoint as like, hey, it's more about who you know, not what you know. And that is true for a lot of different industries and a lot of different processes, but not necessarily in all cases, and especially with short sales and all of the people that are involved in processing these deals, right? We have to understand that we have different human beings behind the desk, trying to get these documents and these paperwork done. They have to follow a specific protocol. So whether you had a direct contact or not, you still have to understand the timeline. You still have to understand the correct protocol. You have to understand what type of documentations they will and will not need, because some people also don't understand that um, overproduction of documents also delay the process, because now they're looking at maybe an unfamiliar document that probably was not required by that servicer, right? So it's both things, incomplete and I guess overly completed submissions can cause a lot of delays, right?
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. And the reality check here for everybody is understanding the environment we're in today, right?
Sure.
And it's changed. It's changed over the last 18 months, and you have to adapt with that. And that's really that's what you're talking about, right, Juan? Which is, you know, from a business standpoint, I totally get what everybody wants to do, right? Oh, push this, push that, do this, do that, right? You know, calling like that and doing that and pushing it in today's environment is not going to work. It's just
Right.
not going to work. The servicers are already pushed to their limit, right? It's one of the things that's just that mantra alone will kill the deal. A lot of the real estate investors like, oh, I've got, you know, again, I've got a lot of short sales for me because I'm working three or four right at the time, but with three or four different servicers, right?
Sure.
When we're calling the servicers, we're calling about 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 deals, right? The volume of what asset resolution is doing is far different than an individual operator calling that servicer about one deal. And that, that volume helps a little bit get things
Sure.
moved, but more so the other thing is credibility, right? One of the hardest things in servicers is right now the negotiators are handling 250, 350 cases on their own. The standard should be closer to 100. So they're at almost triple what they should be doing. So Matt calls every day, right? Documents not correct. People who show that they don't know what they're doing is causing a lot of inefficiency internally at the servicers, which right now they don't have the time for. They're already, right? If you break down the basic numbers, right? Most servicers, their guidelines say that a person who's working a short sale, for instance, or a mod or whatever, they should be handling that that one particular loan, and they should be looking at that loan once every 3 days, right? So when you look at a typical day, they should be somewhere between 75 and 100 cases or 100 deals, loans that they can be managing, and they will hit that every third day or so in a
Mhm.
week. They're at triple that. They're at triple that. That means that they're handling one loan every 3 weeks. So it's one of those things that how do you get to the top of the line, right? There's really nothing new that you can do, and every time you call to make their life inefficient, pushes your file further and further back. And so the key, right, free key to getting short sales done is you need to figure out a way to make their life easier.
Yes. Yes. So, like, to piggyback on that, if they are to look at a specific file, you said it was once every 3 days?
It's
Mhm.
Is
supposed to
that
be,
what it is?
yes.
Right. So imagine the folks that are calling consistently every single day to interrupt that flow, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I get it. Like, we all want answers, we all want updates, and we feel that if we push, we push, we push, we're going to get our deals done quicker. And that's further from the truth because every single, so it's not like, well, okay, they only have a max of 100 files every single month that gets submitted. No, tomorrow they probably have double the workload, right? So
Mhm.
whatever they didn't do today, now you got to double, triple that tomorrow because there's going to be another short sale or a bunch of short sales that are being submitted every single day, especially in this market.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we peel back, right, most operators, most agents are really not efficient at doing this. And
Sure.
and a lot of them do not fully understand how to do this properly, and they're just trying to piecemeal it together. And,
Correct.
and the problem with that from the servicer side, it, nothing wrong with what agents do or what real estate, like that's the way they operate, right? Hey, let's get this, let's get moving, let's move forward. Totally makes sense from a business standpoint. Looking at it on the opposite end from a servicer standpoint, think about it. The servicer is required to look at every single offer.
Sure.
So here's an offer coming in at $200,000 when the property is really worth $400,000 or $500,000.
Mhm.
Well, they
Yeah.
can't just say, that's a BS offer, throw it away. They have to put it in their queue and work their queue just like the $450,000 offer on the $450,000 deal. So that those inefficiencies that they see loses credibility with the agents, loses credibility with those investors, and it all gets pieced, right? They're working 300 deals. They're probably working with 295 different agents.
Yep. And Steve, you said something really important because I can relate to this on my end here at Asset Resolution. I deal with real estate agents, investors, and offers, right? The offers flow through me. I can't tell you how elated I am when I see an offer come in that's got all the stuff it needs. It's properly filled out. And by the way, I begin to recognize over the years doing this, we've got a couple dozen agents that we've worked with for a long time, and they know this stuff cold. And when you see an offer coming from there, like, oh, this is going to be easy. And you rip through it. It's perfect. Oh, maybe need to tweak this. And then sometimes the newer ones that, in their defense, they don't know, oh, it's cumbersome. We're missing half the stuff. We've got to go back and get more. Everything we just talked about to put the file into the situation and the stacking order that we can submit it, well, that's how these people feel, and they're much more bogged down. So, think about the person behind the computer screen and what they're going through and why a good package at the right price makes all the difference in the world. And those can squeak through a little bit faster than the others.
Yeah, yeah. And to add to piggyback off that, Ned, what do we do different, right? How do we manage this differently, right? Why are we talking about it? So, first is how we package and how we submit and what we get into the service are a key vital part of all this. Do things go wrong? Yeah, they go wrong for us. Do we need to escalate? Absolutely. It happens to us too. I'm not saying that we're perfect by any means. Do we miss documents? Yes, we miss documents. These things happen, right? Because as Juan said, each servicer has sort of their own little tweak. And as much as you keep a profile, something changes next week. Some guideline comes in. So it's constantly evolving, which is fine. And also you have to understand which buttons to push and when, right? When do we escalate? We absolutely escalate. But I don't escalate just because I'm not getting an answer back, right? I'm following a process and I'm escalating when the file is at the point that it should have some type of information, right? There's timing. We've completed everything. At that point, we have leverage over all these people saying, I made your life easy. I've got everything for you at this point, and we're still not getting answers. What's going on? Now we're into a compliance issue and pointing those things out and knowing that our fundamentals are correct and then leveraging that makes a really big difference from the servicer standpoint of how they respond to you on that escalation and getting your files through, right? It's totally a rhythm, right? Who's assigned what are they doing, what's their next step, what do they need, when do you get the stuff back, having a good conversation with them, knowing when you do have to fight the system or knowing when you have to just work with them. And those are all really key pieces to making the workflow work better.
Mm-hmm. For sure. You know,
Sounds like a cookbook.
Yeah, so I was just gonna say, so it's funny. Before I met my current wife, we've been together now 26 years. I was not a cook. I just wasn't. And I had no clue all of the nuances to sous chefing, prepping. Well, so I would get a recipe for a meal. And first of all, I have to go and buy all the ingredients. This is 26 years ago. So, a chicken dinner cost me $85 because I had to buy all the spices, the cutlery, whatever I didn't have. And then I would go through the recipe and I would do it as I'm reading it. Well, you can't be chopping onions while you've got something cooking over here. So my point being, good chefs, why their food comes out so spectacular is because they do things in a certain way and at the right time. So, for example, non-chefs out there, if you're going to saute onions and garlic, which is the basis for just about every meal you're ever going to cook, you do that first and you do it right. You let it simmer so that it doesn't burn and so that it does all the stuff that it needs to do to exude those flavors. Well, short sales are the same. Just like you have to chop your vegetables in advance, get them all ready, make sure your meats are thawed, you've got to get your documentation together. You've got to do your underwriting, right? You've got to make sure that you understand what recipe you're about to follow because it's different for each of the different servicers and there are nuances. So, trying to throw your onions and garlic in at the very end raw is not going to come out the same as sauteing them early in the dish. Short sales and dealing with distressed assets is no different. And that's why you can have the playbook. There's just that certain subtlety about knowing exactly when to throw that dash of spice in there, the escalation, when it's needed, when it's appropriate, and when it's going to enhance the dish. So, that's what we talk about here all the time. And we teach this. More importantly, though, we do this because we've tried to build a model, and we have, that's affordable, that's efficient, and that can help you as an investor, help you as a real estate professional do more transactions. Let us stir the pots. Let us chop the onions. We don't cry as badly as most folks do because
The other ones.
we've chopped a lot of onions in our days.
You have.
So so,
You have.
we've developed that short sale guide and the how-to kit. If you're interested in that, just type short sales into the comments. Let us know. Reach out. We'll send you our recipe book for this stuff. It really makes all the difference in the world. So, Juan, I'm going to pass it back to you.
Yeah, well, look, if you guys like this episode, if things starting to make sense from a cookbook, recipe, ideology, um, definitely like, subscribe, right? Share this content with your local investors, your real estate agents, get them in here so that we can do a lot more of these types of opportunities with you, right? If you are working a short sale as an investor or an agent, and you feel like the deal's not moving quick enough, you're hitting like dead ends or a brick wall, right? Sometimes it's maybe not the deal, but the execution, right? We've helped hundreds of investors and real estate agents in the last 30 to 40 years that we've all been doing this to unclog a lot of those deals, right? So here at Asset Resolution Advisor, we don't only just teach the process, but we help you to execute on those deals so that you can either get your deal or you can just process this deal and get paid it. So listen, review your pipeline, take a look at the complicated deal. Don't let it fall by the waistline. Make sure that you comment, subscribe, or reach out to us. We have a full school community and where we're able to take a look at your deal, digest it for you, help you analyze it, and get it to the closing table. So with that being said, let us be your chef to your deals. Okay. So like, subscribe, follow us for more of this content so we can bring more of this information to you guys. So if my partners don't have anything else, that is all for today, guys. Thank you for watching another episode of Distressed Deals Decoded.